There are moments that cleave a life in two, before and after, light and shadow. The person you were and the person you will become. For Alexander Morgan, that moment arrived on an ordinary Thursday afternoon in October, when he came home early and saw what he was never meant to see. A woman, a bathtub, a song that would resurrect his frozen heart. But we must begin 12 hours earlier, in a different kind of breaking. The fluorescent lights of Boston City Hospital hummed their endless mechanical prayer. 11:47 on a Wednesday night. Elena Rivera sat in the third-floor break room, still wearing her nurse's scrubs after a double shift. 14 hours on her feet. Her lower back ached with that deep, grinding pain that comes from bending over hospital beds, from lifting patients twice her size, from the accumulated exhaustion of working 3 jobs across 7 days. She was 32 years old. She looked older. The break room coffee had gone cold in her hands. She didn't notice. Her brown eyes stared at the phone on the table before her, willing it not to ring, willing time to stop, willing the universe to rewrite what she already knew was coming. It rang. Her hand shook as she answered. She already knew. Somehow, in that place where the body knows before the mind catches up, she already knew. Miss Rivera? The voice belonged to Dr. Hassan, her father's cardiologist. Professional. Careful. The voice doctors use when they're about to change everything. I'm calling about your father. He had another cardiac event this evening. We've stabilized him, but Elena, we need to talk. The world tilted. The break room walls seemed to breathe. How bad? Her voice came from somewhere far away. His heart is failing faster than we anticipated. We need to do the surgery. Soon. Not in 3 months like we discussed. Within 2 weeks or... Dr. Hassan paused. Doctors hate that pause. It means they're calculating how much truth a person can bear. Or we're talking about weeks, Elena, not months. Weeks. She closed her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she saw her father, Miguel Rivera, 63 years old but looking 80 after 40 years of construction, work that ground his body down to bone and determination. The man who raised her and Isabella alone after their mother died. Who worked 3 jobs himself to keep them fed. Who never complained, never quit, never stopped fighting. Now she had to fight for him. The surgery, she said, tell me the cost. Another pause. $78,000. Insurance will cover 12. The numbers hit like fists. $66,000. She did the math automatically, the way poverty teaches you to calculate in heartbeats. Her hospital job paid $2,200 a month after taxes. The housekeeping work at the Morgan mansion added another $3,500. The office cleaning on Wednesday nights brought in $400. Total, $6,100 monthly income. Her rent was $1,400. Isabella's tuition at Boston University was $3,200 a month. Food, utilities, her father's existing medical bills, the minimum payments on 3 Max credit cards. Total monthly expenses, $6,400. She was already $300 in the red every month. Had been for 8 months. Surviving on credit cards and prayer. $66,000 might as well have been 66 million. Ms. Rivera, are you there? I'm here. Her voice sounded calm. Years of nursing that had taught her how to sound calm when everything inside was screaming. I need to make some calls. I'll get the money. She had no idea how. Dr. Hassan's voice softened with pity, and somehow that was worse than the numbers. Elena, there are programs, payment plans. We can work with you. 2 weeks, you said. Yes, after that, the risk becomes substantial. She thanked him, ended the call, sat in the fluorescent humming silence of the break room, and let herself break, just for 60 seconds. That's all she would allow. 60 seconds to feel the weight of impossible choices, to feel the unfairness of a world where money determined who lived and who died, to feel the suffocating pressure of being the one everyone depended on, the one who had to be strong, the one who couldn't fail because failure meant losing everything. 60 seconds. Then she wiped her eyes, stood up, walked back onto the floor. She had 2 more hours left in her shift. At 2 in the morning, Elena finally made it back to her apartment in Dorchester. The neighborhood wasn't dangerous exactly, but it wasn't safe either. The kind of place where you walked fast and kept your keys between your fingers, where sirens were background music and helicopter searchlights were just another kind of moonlight. She climbed 3 flights of stairs in a building that always smelled like curry and cigarette smoke. Apartment 3B, 400 square feet split between a bedroom, bathroom, and combination living room kitchen. Isabella slept on the pull-out couch, had been sleeping there for 3 years. Elena stood at the door, key in hand, and made herself breathe. Isabella couldn't see her like this, couldn't know how bad things were. Her little sister was 19, pre-law at BU, brilliant and determined, and everything Elena had sacrificed for. Isabella was going to be someone, was going to escape the cycle of poverty that had ground their family down for generations. Elena would not let her worry, would not let her know that the foundation was crumbling. She opened the door quietly. Isabella was asleep, face peaceful in the yellow streetlight coming through the thin curtains. So young, so full of potential. Elena's whole heart lying on a second-hand couch. The kitchen table was covered in bills. Elena had left them there that morning, color-coded by urgency. Red for overdue, yellow for due soon, white for already in collections, more red than anything else. She sat down, took out her calculator, started running numbers she'd already run 100 times, hoping somehow the math would change, hoping for a miracle that stubbornly refused to arrive. At 4 in the morning, she gave up, laid her head on her arms and let herself cry, quiet enough that Isabella wouldn't wake. Cried for her father, for herself, for the unfairness of loving people in a world where love wasn't enough, where you also needed money, mountains of it, and she had none. Somewhere in the crying, she fell asleep at the table, dreamed of drowning, woke 3 hours later with her neck cramped and her face stuck to an electric bill. Isabella was already up, making coffee in their tiny kitchen. "You okay, Hermana?" Elena forced a smile. "Just tired, long shift." Isabella studied her with eyes too knowing for 19. "Papa?" "He's fine, stable." The lie came easily. "I have to get to my cleaning job. You eating?" "I'll grab something at school." Isabella came over, kissed Elena's forehead. "You work too hard. Someone has to pay for that expensive education." "I could take a semester off. Help out." "Absolutely not." Elena stood, cupped her sister's face. "You're going to be a lawyer, mijita. You're going to change the world. That's the plan. We stick to the plan." Isabella hugged her hard. "I love you." "I love you too. Now go. You'll be late." After Isabella left, Elena allowed herself 10 more minutes of despair. Then she showered, put on the simple black pants and white polo shirt required for housekeeping work, and headed out. She had a job at the Morgan mansion. She couldn't be late. Alexander Morgan's corner office occupied the entire northeast section of the 42nd floor of Morgan Tech Tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Boston Harbor, the Atlantic beyond, and on clear days the faint suggestion of Cape Cod. The office was decorated in what an expensive interior designer had called executive minimalism. Glass and steel, chrome and leather, every surface clean enough to perform surgery on. It looked like a place where no one actually lived. At 58 minutes past 2 on Thursday afternoon, Alexander sat at his desk reviewing third-quarter earnings reports, his reading glasses perched on his nose. His salt and pepper hair, professionally cut twice monthly, showed just enough gray to suggest wisdom without age. His suit, bespoke from a tailor in Back Bay, fit perfectly across shoulders kept broad by early morning runs, he no longer enjoyed but maintained out of discipline. He looked like success, moved like confidence, spoke with the measured authority of a man who'd built a $600 million technology company from a dorm room at M1T. Inside, he was a museum of grief. 3 years. 3 years since Catherine died. 3 years of going through motions that once held meaning. Wake at 5, run 6 miles, shower, dress, coffee, office by 7, work until 7, home, dinner alone, and read reports, sleep, repeat. He couldn't remember the last time he laughed. Genuinely laughed, the kind that started in your belly and took you by surprise. Couldn't remember the last time he looked forward to anything. Couldn't remember when food started tasting like cardboard, when the Boston skyline became just glass and lights, when the company he'd built with his hands and mind became just numbers on spreadsheets. Catherine used to say he worked too much, used to physically remove the laptop from his hands and drag him to the couch for movie nights, used to leave notes in his briefcase. "The world won't end if you take a day off. I checked." Used to make him human. Now he was just efficient. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Margaret, his assistant for 14 years, entered with her usual precise efficiency. 60-ish, gray hair in a perpetual bun, cardigan despite the office temperature, the human embodiment of competence. "Mr. Morgan, board meeting at 3:30. He nodded, checked his Rolex. 3:02. "Agenda? Quarterly review. The new acquisition in Singapore. Usual." She hesitated. Margaret never hesitated. What is it? Sir, today is October 15th. The date hung in the air between them. October 15th. 3 years ago today, Catherine had died. Lung cancer, stage 4, 6 months from diagnosis to death. 6 months of watching her fade, of hospitals and hospice, of pretending to be strong while everything inside him shattered. I'm aware, Margaret. Of course, sir. I just thought. She trailed off. What was there to say? That it gets easier? It didn't. That time heals? It didn't. That life goes on? It did, and that was somehow worse. Thank you, Margaret. That will be all. After she left, Alexander allowed himself one moment of weakness. He opened his desk drawer. Inside, a photograph. Catherine on their honeymoon in Martha's Vineyard, wind whipping her blonde hair, smile radiant, eyes full of life. They'd been 31, thought they had forever. I'm sorry, my love, he whispered to the photograph. Sorry for still being here. Sorry for moving through the world without her. Sorry for the crushing loneliness that had become his only companion. Sorry, most of all, that he couldn't seem to properly grieve. Couldn't cry anymore. Couldn't feel much of anything beyond a dull, persistent ache. His phone buzzed. Text from his brother Daniel. Thinking of you today, brother. Call if you need. Alexander deleted the text, put the photo back, closed the drawer. At 3:15, his phone rang again. Margaret. Sir, the board meeting has been canceled. Mr. Cartwright had a scheduling conflict. Canceled. The board meeting was canceled. In 3 years of running this company like a machine, meetings were never canceled. Alexander stared at his calendar. White space where the meeting should be. Empty hours stretching before him. On impulse, something he never did, he made a decision. Margaret, I'm going home. Silence. Then, sir, it's only 3:15. I know what time it is. I'm going home. Clear my afternoon. Are you feeling well? Was he? He didn't know anymore. I'm fine. I just need air. He hung up before she could respond, gathered his briefcase, took the private elevator down to the parking garage. His Mercedes was waiting, silver and pristine and utterly impersonal. As he drove through Boston's afternoon traffic, Alexander tried to remember the last time he'd gone home early. Couldn't. Even when Catherine was sick, he'd worked until evening, then rushed to the hospital. Work had been his escape from pain, from reality, from the unbearable weight of watching someone you loved die slowly. Now work was just emptiness in a different location. He took the familiar route to Beacon Hill, past the brownstones and the narrow streets that had looked exactly the same for 200 years, to the red brick mansion on Park Avenue he'd bought for Catherine. She loved this house, had filled it with light and laughter and dinner parties and life. Now it was a mausoleum, beautiful and hollow. Alexander parked in the garage, entered through the side door that led into the kitchen. The house smelled like lavender. The new housekeeper must have changed the diffusers. What was her name? Maria? No, Elena, the woman Catherine had hired 6 months before she died. An angel, Catherine had called her. She sees people, Alex, really sees them. He'd barely noticed her. In 2 months of her employment, they'd exchanged perhaps 50 words. She cleaned, he worked. Ships passing in a very expensive house. As Alexander walked through the kitchen, he heard water running upstairs. Odd. The housekeeper shouldn't be here yet. She came at 4, he came home at 7. That was the routine. The sound came from the second floor, from the guest bathroom. He climbed the stairs, past photographs of Catherine that lined the hallway like stations of the cross. Catherine laughing, Catherine on their wedding day, Catherine during treatment, thin but smiling, always smiling. The bathroom door was ajar, steam curled through the opening, and beneath the sound of running water, something else. Singing, a woman's voice soft and haunting, singing in Spanish. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Alexander's hand touched the doorknob. He should call out, announce his presence, walk away, anything but what he did next. He pushed the door open, just a few inches, just enough to see. Elena Rivera sat in the vintage clawfoot bathtub, eyes closed, head tilted back. The afternoon light through the frosted window turned the steam into something ethereal. Candles lined the edge of the tub, their flames dancing. Next to them, a small framed photograph of an older woman, her mother perhaps. She was singing that same song over and over, soft as prayer, and on her face, tears mixed with bathwater. Alexander stood frozen. This wasn't sexual, though she was undressed. This was something else, something intimate in a different way. Private grief made public by accident. A woman trying to hold herself together in the only space she thought was hers. She was beautiful. Not in the polished way of the women in his social circle, but in the way real things are beautiful. A life fully lived showed in every line of her face. Strength, exhaustion, determination, pain. For the first time in 3 years, Alexander Morgan felt something other than emptiness. Then her eyes opened. Their gazes met through the steam. For one suspended moment, neither moved. Horror bloomed across her face. She gasped, grabbing for a towel, and reality crashed back. "Oh, God!" Alexander stumbled backward. "I'm so sorry. I heard water. I shouldn't have." He slammed the door, leaned against the hallway wall. His heart pounded against his ribs like it was trying to escape. His hands shook. What had he just done? What kind of man invades someone's privacy like that? But beneath the shame, that other feeling persisted. That crack in the numbness. That first breath after being underwater too long. He'd felt something. After 3 years of nothing, he'd felt something. 15 minutes passed like 15 hours. Alexander paced his study, poured bourbon he didn't drink, looked at Catherine's photograph, and felt like he was betraying her somehow. Not because of the woman in the bathtub, because for a moment, just a moment, he'd felt alive. A knock on the door, soft, hesitant. "Come in." Elena entered. She dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, her dark hair still damp, pulled back in a ponytail. She kept her eyes on the floor, her hands clasped together so tight the knuckles went white. "Mr. Morgan, I am so sorry. I thought you weren't home until 7. Mrs. Hanson at the agency said Thursdays you always work late. I shouldn't have been using the guest bathroom. I should have—" "Stop," Alexander raised his hand. "Please, stop apologizing. This is my fault, entirely mine. I came home unexpectedly. I heard water, and instead of calling out, He couldn't finish. There was no good ending to that sentence. "My apartment," Elena said quietly, still not meeting his eyes. "The hot water has been broken for 3 days. The landlord keeps saying he'll fix it. I thought since you weren't home, and the bathroom is so beautiful, and I was so tired." "You have every right. This is where you work. You should be comfortable here." He paused. "The song you were singing, it was beautiful. What was it?" Now she looked up. Surprise flickered across her face. "Bésame mucho. It means kiss me deeply. My mother used to sing it when I was small in Puebla, in Mexico." "Your mother." Alexander gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Please sit. Tell me about her." "I don't understand." "Neither do I, but I heard you singing and I'd like to know about the song, about your mother, if you're willing to share." Elena sat carefully, perched on the edge of the chair like she might need to run. "She died when I was 15. Breast cancer, stage 4, 6 months from diagnosis to—" She stopped. "I'm sorry, that's probably not what you want to hear." "My wife died of lung cancer," Alexander said quietly. 3 years ago today, actually. 6 months from diagnosis to death." The air between them changed. Recognition passed across Elena's face. The recognition of someone who knows that particular landscape of loss. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Mr. Morgan. And I for yours. Please call me Alex." "That wouldn't be appropriate, sir. After what just happened, I think we're past appropriate, don't you?" The smallest smile touched her lips. "Perhaps." They sat in silence for a moment, not uncomfortable. The silence of two people who both understood that some pain is too large for words. "You knew Catherine," Alexander said. "My wife, before she died." "Yes, I was her nurse at Mass General during her treatments. She was very kind to me. She asked me about my family, my life. Most patients, they're too focused on their own suffering. But Mrs. Morgan always asked about me." "That sounds like her." "I came to Boston in October 2020, started as a nurse at Mass General. I met Mrs. Morgan in April 2021 during her treatments. She was so kind to me, asked about my life, my family. In August, 6 weeks before she passed, she asked if I would consider working here, at your home. I didn't understand why she wanted a nurse to do housekeeping, but she insisted." "She said what?" "She said she was hiring me to take care of you. Not the house. You." Alexander felt something crack open in his chest. Of course Catherine had done that. Of course she'd tried to take care of him even from beyond the grave. That was who she was. Always thinking of others. Always planning. Always loving. "I didn't know that," he said, voice thick. "I barely noticed you were here. I'm sorry for that too. You were grieving, you are grieving. People in pain don't see much beyond it. And you? Alexander leaned forward. Are you in pain too? Elena looked away. Everyone carries something, Mr. Morgan. Alex. Everyone carries something, Alex. He wanted to push, wanted to know what made her cry in bathtubs while singing songs from childhood, wanted to know what put those shadows in her eyes. But he had no right. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Would you stay for dinner? The words came out before he could think better of them. I can order something. It's the least I can do after today. I should go home. My sister is waiting. Your sister lives with you? Isabella, she's 19, pre-law at BU. She's brilliant, going to change the world. Pride filled Elena's voice when she spoke of her sister. Then invite her. Order for 3, please. Alexander stopped. What was he doing? But the thought of being alone tonight, of all nights, was suddenly unbearable. I don't talk to people anymore. Not really, and you knew Catherine. Maybe we could talk about her? Keep her alive for a little while longer? Elena studied him for a long moment. He could see her weighing obligations against kindness, propriety against compassion. I can cook, she said finally. That's my job, after all. What do you like? I honestly can't remember. Catherine always decided. Then I'll make arroz con pollo, my mother's recipe, and you can help. I don't cook. Everyone can cook. You just need someone to show you. She stood. Come, you're about to learn. They worked side by side in the mansion's professional kitchen, a space designed for caterers but rarely used. Elena moved with practiced efficiency, pulling ingredients from the refrigerator, setting out cutting boards and knives, talking Alexander through each step. First, the chicken. We season it simply. Salt, pepper, garlic powder. The flavor comes from the rice, not the meat. Alexander tried to follow her instructions. His hands, so confident in boardrooms and on keyboards, fumbled with the knife. He'd overseen billion-dollar acquisitions but couldn't dice an onion without mangling it. Here, Elena moved behind him, her hands guiding his. Let the knife do the work. Rock it. Like this. She was close enough that he could smell her shampoo. Something simple. Coconut maybe. Nothing expensive but real. Human. Her hands were rough from work, nails cut short, practical. They made his own hands, softened by desk work and moisturizer, feel absurd. Like this? He attempted the rocking motion. Better. See, you're learning. They fell into a rhythm. Elena explained the recipe as they worked, how her mother had learned it from her grandmother, how food in their family was never just sustenance, but memory, culture, love made tangible. How she'd made this same dish the night before her mother died, and her mother had smiled despite the pain and said it was perfect. Alexander listened, really listened, not planning his next response, not thinking about work, just present in this moment with this woman who was teaching him how to cook while telling him the story of her life. You run a technology company, Elena said as she showed him how to toast the rice. What do you make? Software, infrastructure solutions for healthcare systems, electronic medical records, patient management, that sort of thing. So you help hospitals? In a way, we help them be more efficient. Mrs. Morgan, she told me you started the company in college. A dorm room at MIT. My roommate and I wrote code that helped coordinate patient care. A hospital in Providence bought it for $5,000. We thought we were rich. Alexander smiled at the memory. Catherine supported us through those early years. She was working as a nurse. She believed in the company before it existed. She believed in you. Yes. The truth of that settled heavily. She did. They moved to the stove. Elena added chicken stock, tomatoes, spices. The kitchen filled with aromas that reminded Alexander of something he couldn't quite name. Not his childhood, not his life with Catherine. Something older, something essential. Why did you leave nursing, he asked. You clearly loved it. Elena's hands stilled over the pot. I needed more money. Nursing pays well, but not enough. Not for what I need. Which is? To take care of my family. She stirred the pie, not looking at him. My father had a stroke last year. Medical bills and Isabella's tuition. Someone has to pay. So you work 3 jobs. You know about that? You mentioned it earlier. Hospital. Here and offices on Wednesday nights. Alexander did quick math. That's 80 hours a week minimum. Elena shrugged. Necessario. Necessary. Family is everything. Your father, he's okay now? The wooden spoon clattered against the pot. Elena's shoulders tensed. For a long moment, she didn't answer. When she did, her voice was barely audible. No, he's not okay. His heart is failing. He needs surgery. $78,000. Insurance covers 12. I have... She stopped. Started again. I don't have $66,000. The number hung between them, enormous and impossible. I could help, Alexander said. No, the word came out sharp. Elena turned to face him, eyes fierce. No charity. I don't know you, Mr. Morgan. I work for what I have. It's not charity, it's... What? Kindness? Pity? Either way, it would change everything. I can't take money from my employer. Can't owe that kind of debt. Can't... She swallowed hard. Can't let that become what this is. What is this? The question hung unanswered. Neither of them knew yet. The rice needs to simmer 20 minutes, Elena said, turning back to the stove. We should set the table. They ate at the kitchen island, not the formal dining room. Somehow that felt right. The arroz con pollo was perfect. Complex flavors layering over each other. The kind of cooking that comes from love and practice, not recipes. Alexander took a bite and tasted something he'd forgotten existed. Comfort. Home. The sense that food could be more than fuel. This is incredible, and he said, my mother would be happy you think so. She always said food is how we show love when words aren't enough. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Alexander asked the question that had been building since the moment he saw her in the bathtub. Why were you crying? Lena set down her fork. You saw that? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked. No, it's fair. You saw me at my lowest. You deserve to know why. She took a breath. The hospital called last night. My father's condition is worse. He has 2 weeks. 2 weeks to come up with $66,000, or she couldn't finish. Or he dies. Yes, Alexander set down his own fork. Elena, please let me help. 66,000 is a fortune to me and pocket change to you, I know, but that's exactly why I can't accept. Because then every time I look at you, I'll wonder, is this real or did I just trade my father's life for whatever this is becoming? This? You feel it too. Don't pretend you don't. Something happened today, not just the bathroom. Something shifted. And if money enters the equation, we'll never know what this could have been without it. She was right. Alexander knew she was right. But watching her suffer when he could help with one phone call felt like its own kind of torture. Then what will you do? I don't know, but I'll figure something out. I always do. They finished dinner, washed dishes together, extended the evening past when Elena should have left. Neither wanted the night to end. Neither wanted to return to their separate loneliness. At the door, Elena paused. Mr. Morgan, Alex, thank you for listening, for cooking with me, for not making me feel small about my problems. Thank you for teaching me to dice an onion, and for telling me about your mother, and for, he hesitated, for making me feel something today. I haven't felt much of anything in 3 years. Their eyes met, held. Something passed between them that neither could name yet. Recognition, connection, the beginning of something that would change everything. I should go. Will you come back tomorrow? I don't know if that's wise. Probably not, but will you? Elena smiled, sad and real and beautiful. Yes, I'll come back. After she left, Alexander stood in the empty house and felt the silence differently. Not as peaceful, as lonely. The house had felt more alive with her in it, more like a home. He went to his study, opened the drawer, looked at Catherine's photograph. I met someone today, he whispered to the image. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's wrong to feel this way, but she makes me feel alive, Kath. For the first time in 3 years, I feel alive. The photograph smiled back, frozen in that moment of joy. And somehow Alexander thought Catherine would understand, would want him to feel alive, would have planned for exactly this. He pulled out his phone, texted his lawyer, Tom Bradford. Need to talk, tomorrow, important. Then he called his bank, arranged a wire transfer, $66,000 to City Hospital, marked for Miguel Rivera's surgery, anonymous donor. Elena wouldn't accept it from him. But her father would get the surgery anyway. Some debts, Alexander decided, didn't need to be repaid. Some gifts were simply love wearing a different name. He went to bed that night and dreamed for the first time in years, not nightmares of Catherine dying, not the grinding anxiety dreams of work. He dreamed of a woman singing in a bathtub, candles flickering, and the possibility of a second chance. The next morning arrived wrapped in fog. Boston Harbor disappeared into white, the city reduced to muted sounds and shadow shapes. Elena stood outside the Morgan mansion at 3:55, 5 minutes early as always, her hand on the iron gate. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Alexander Morgan standing in that doorway, steam between them, something unnameable passing through the air. Shame had kept her awake initially, the mortification of being seen at her most vulnerable. But as the night wore on, shame transformed into something more complicated. He'd looked at her like she was human. Not a housekeeper, not a problem to be solved. Just a woman fully seen, and somehow that was more intimate than nakedness. She pushed open the gate, climbed the steps, used her key. Inside, the house smelled like coffee, fresh coffee, which was unusual. Alexander never made coffee. That was her job. She found him in the kitchen, standing at the espresso machine with the bewildered expression of a man confronting alien technology. He'd rolled up his sleeves. His hair was slightly mussed, like he'd been running his hands through it. Something about seeing him disheveled, imperfect, made her heart do something it had no business doing. "Good morning," he said, not quite meeting her eyes. "I was trying to make coffee. For you, but I think I broke something." Elena crossed to the machine, assessed the situation. He'd used twice as much ground coffee as needed and forgotten to put water in the reservoir. "You didn't break it. You just forgot the water." "Right, water, essential ingredient in coffee." He laughed, self-deprecating. "I run a tech company but can't operate basic appliances." "Different skills." Elena fixed the machine, started it properly. "You build things, I maintain things, both necessary." They stood in the kitchen, the espresso machine hissing and gurgling between them, neither quite sure what to say. Yesterday had changed something. They both felt it. Neither knew how to name it yet. "Your father," Alexander said quietly. "How is he this morning?" Elena's chest tightened. "I called the hospital. They said his condition is stable. 2 weeks, they said. 2 weeks to figure out the impossible." "Elena, please let me—" "No, we talked about this." She met his eyes. "But thank you. For offering. For caring. That means more than you know." The coffee finished. Elena poured 2 cups, the ritual of it soothing, added cream to hers, nothing to his. They'd never had coffee together, but somehow she knew how he took it. Had watched him enough mornings, invisible in the background of his life. "I thought about what you said last night," Alexander began. "About money changing things. You're right, it would, so I won't offer again. But Elena, if there's anything else I can do, anything that doesn't involve money, I'm here." "Why?" The question came out before she could stop it. "Why do you care? You barely knew I existed 2 days ago." Alexander was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of truth that cost something to tell. "Because yesterday when I saw you, I felt something. First time in 3 years I've felt anything besides emptiness. And I don't know what that means. Don't know if it's right or wrong or just loneliness, recognizing loneliness. But I know I don't want to go back to being numb." Elena's hands tightened around her coffee cup. "Mr. Morgan." "Alex." "Alex, I'm your employee. There are lines we shouldn't cross." Catherine crossed them first. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "I found this last night. In her things. She left it for me." He handed it to Elena. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. The handwriting was elegant but shaky, written by someone in pain. Catherine's final words. "My dearest Alex," Elena read aloud. "If you're reading this, I'm gone and you're probably drowning in work and loneliness and guilt. Stop. You're allowed to live. You're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to love again. I hired Maria for you. Yes, I know her name is Elena, but Maria suits her better. It means wished for child. And Alex, I wished for her for you. She understands loss. She'll understand you. She sees people, really sees them, the way I used to see you. She'll remind you that you're still alive. Don't fight it. Don't feel guilty. I'm giving you permission. More than permission. I'm asking you. Please don't spend the rest of your life as a ghost. Please let yourself feel again. Maria will help, if you let her. All my love, always and forever, Catherine." Elena's vision blurred. Tears fell onto the paper, smudging ink that was already 3 years old. She knew this would happen. She was always 3 steps ahead of everyone. Alexander's voice broke slightly. She loved me enough to plan for after. To send you to me, and I was too buried in grief to even notice you were here. You were surviving. That's all anyone can do. And you? Alexander moved closer, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. Are you just surviving too? Elena thought about the question. Her whole life had been survival. Working multiple jobs, raising Isabella after their mother died, fleeing Carlos and his demons, coming to America. Every day a calculation of what she could endure, what she could sacrifice, how much further she could stretch before breaking. I don't know how to do anything else, she admitted. Maybe we could learn together. The moment stretched. The kitchen held its breath. Lena knew she should step back, create distance, maintain the boundaries that kept her safe and employed. But Catherine's words echoed in her head. She sees people, really sees them. I should start working, Elena said, though she didn't move. Or you could stay here, have coffee with me. Tell me more about your mother, about Puebla, about the person you were before life made you fight so hard. And Elena, who never allowed herself rest, who never put down her armor, who survived by never stopping long enough to feel, made a choice. Okay, 20 minutes. Then I really do have to work. They sat at the kitchen island, coffee between them, morning light filtering through fog, and talked, really talked, about Catherine and Elena's mother and the different ways cancer steals people. About Isabella's brilliance and how Elena had practically raised her. About Alexander's brother Daniel, who couldn't hold on to money but could make anyone laugh. About the weight of being the strong one, the responsible one, the one everyone depends on. 20 minutes became an hour, became two. Became the beginning of something neither could name yet, but both recognized as essential. Over the next 2 weeks, a pattern emerged. Alexander came home earlier each day. Elena arrived earlier to match. They cooked together, talked, circled each other like binary stars, caught in each other's gravity, but afraid to collide. On day 3, Alexander taught Elena how to play chess. She was terrible at it, too impatient for strategy, but she laughed when she lost, and the sound made something in Alexander's chest unlock. On day 5, Elena brought Isabella to meet him. The young woman was fierce and brilliant, asking Alexander pointed questions about income inequality and corporate responsibility, while Elena blushed and apologized. But Alexander was delighted, engaged in debate, treated Isabella like an equal. After she left, Elena found him in his study, smiling. Your sister is extraordinary, Chung, he said. She's my whole heart. I can see why. On day 7, they worked together in the winter garden, preparing the plants for coming frost. Elena's hands moved with confidence through soil and roots, explaining about dormancy and survival, about how things that look dead are often just waiting for the right conditions to bloom again. Alexander knelt beside her, dirt under his fingernails for the first time in years, and thought about metaphors. On day 9, they accidentally fell asleep on the couch during a movie. Elena woke first, found herself curled against Alexander's chest, his arm around her. She should have moved, should have extracted herself before he woke and made things awkward. Instead, she listened to his heartbeat and let herself have 5 minutes of imagining this could be real. When Alexander woke, they pulled apart with mumbled apologies and careful distance. But both felt the absence, the cold where warmth had been. On day 11, Elena arrived to find an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside, a letter from City Hospital. Her father's surgery had been approved. Anonymous donor covered the full cost. Surgery scheduled for the following week. She knew immediately who'd done it. Confronted Alexander in his study. You promised. You said you wouldn't. I didn't give you money. I don't expect anything. I just made a phone call to the hospital. Anonymous donation, nothing to do with you. Everything to do with me. Alex, this is exactly what I said would happen. Now I owe you it. You owe me nothing. Your father gets to live. That's all that matters. You can't just fix my problems with money. I'm not fixing your problems. I'm giving your father a chance. Would you really rather he die to preserve your pride? The words hit like a slap. Elena stood there, shaking with anger and gratitude, and something more dangerous than either. I hate that you're right, she whispered. I know. I hate that I can't pay you back. I don't want you to. I hate that this changes things. Does it have to? Elena looked at him across the desk, this man who'd barged into her life and refused to stay in the neat compartments she'd built. Employer, rich person, someone temporary and separate from her real life. But he was becoming none of those things and all of something else, something that terrified her. My father's surgery is Tuesday, she said quietly. I'll need the day off. Take the whole week, with pay. Alex, For once, just accept help. Please. She left without answering. But on Tuesday, she took the day off. And when her father's surgery was successful, when Dr. Hassan came out of the operating room with good news for the first time in months, Elena called Alexander first. Before Isabella. Before anyone. He's okay. The surgery worked. They think he'll recover fully. Elena, that's wonderful. She could hear the smile in his voice. Thank you. Her voice broke. Thank you for giving him back to me. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. And I'm also angry with you and grateful and confused. And I think I need to see you. I'm home. Come whenever you're ready. She arrived at midnight, still wearing the clothes she'd worn to the hospital, exhausted and emotionally raw. Alexander answered the door immediately, like he'd been waiting by it. He's really okay? He asked. He's really okay. And then, because emotions had been building for 2 weeks, because gratitude and anger and attraction had reached critical mass, because sometimes survival means taking the risk, Elena kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was months of loneliness and fear, and fighting transformed into this moment, this connection, this man who saw her. Alexander froze for one shocked second, then kissed her back with equal intensity, 3 years of numbness shattering all at once. His hands in her hair, her hands fisting his shirt, both of them trying to get closer, to merge, to stop being two separate lonely people and become something else. They broke apart, gasping. That was, Alexander couldn't finish. A mistake, Elena said, though she didn't move away. No, that was the opposite of a mistake. Alex, I work for you. This is inappropriate. This is real. He cupped her face. Elena, I haven't felt anything in 3 years. And now I feel everything. Tell me you don't feel it too. Feeling isn't enough. Feelings don't change reality. Then what reality do we need to change? She almost told him then. Almost confessed about Carlos. About the marriage that technically still existed. About the complications that made this impossible. But she was so tired of fighting. So tired of being strong. For one night, she wanted to imagine this could work. Kiss me again, she whispered, and we'll figure out reality tomorrow. So he did, slowly this time, tenderly, the kiss of two damaged people offering each other gentleness. They moved to the couch, held each other, talked in whispers about Catherine and Elena's mother and whether it was possible to love again after loss. I think they'd want us to be happy, Alexander said. I think they'd want us to be careful. Can we be both? Elena didn't answer, just kissed him again, postponing in reality for a few more hours. She left before dawn, before she could make more choices she wasn't ready to defend. But at the door, she turned back. Alex, tomorrow when reality returns, things are going to get complicated. I don't care about complicated. You will. There are things you don't know about me. Things that might change how you feel. Nothing could change how I feel. Don't make promises you can't keep. She left him standing in the doorway, confusion and concern crossing his face. Went home to her apartment where Isabella was already awake, making coffee. You were at his house all night, Isabella said. Statement, not question. Nothing happened. We just talked. Hermana, lying doesn't suit you. Elena sank into a chair. Bella, I think I'm falling for him. I know. I've known for days. The way you talk about him, the way you smile when you get ready for work. Isabella sat across from her. Does he know about Carlos? The name landed like a stone in still water. Carlos, the marriage that wasn't a marriage but legally remained one. The complication Elena had been avoiding for 4 years. No, I haven't told him. You have to, before this goes further. I know, Elena pressed her hands to her face. I finally found something good. Someone good. And Carlos will ruin it. The moment Alex finds out I'm technically married, that I left Mexico without divorcing. Then tell him first, on your terms, before someone else does. Elena knew her sister was right. But knowing and doing are different countries, and the border between them is built of fear. I'll tell him, soon. I just need a few more days of this being simple. But life has a way of eliminating choices, of forcing confrontations before you are ready, of bringing the past crashing into the present at exactly the wrong moment. 2 days later, Elena was preparing dinner when the doorbell rang. Alexander was upstairs in a video conference. She wiped her hands, went to answer. Standing on the doorstep, looking weathered and desperate and far too familiar, was Carlos Vega. And standing beside him, terrified and apologetic, was Isabella. The world tilted. Elena grabbed the doorframe for support. Hola, esposa, Carlos said. Hello, wife. The word landed like a blow. What are you doing here? Elena's voice came from somewhere far away. How did you find me? Facebook. Isabella's tagged location. Boston University. Easy. Carlos's English had improved since she'd last seen him. 4 years of separation, and he looked older. Harder. The kind of hard that comes from disappointments accumulating. We need to talk. Did you bring her here against her will? He called yesterday, Isabella said, voice shaking. Said you were in trouble. That I needed to come with him or you'd be in danger. I didn't know what else to do. Bella, it's okay. Elena pulled her sister into a hug. Over Isabella's shoulder, she glared at Carlos. You had no right. I have every right. I'm your husband and Isabella's legal guardian. The words hit like fists. Husband, guardian. The two legal facts Elena had been running from for 4 years. What do you want, Carlos? Can we come in? Or do you want neighbors hearing our business? Elena's mind raced. Alexander was upstairs. If Carlos came in, if they talked where Alexander could hear, but she couldn't leave them on the doorstep. Couldn't risk a scene. Kitchen, now, and you leave Isabella alone. They moved inside. Carlos looked around the mansion with poorly concealed envy. Wealth radiated from every surface, every piece of art, every custom detail. Elena saw him calculating her position, drawing conclusions. In the kitchen, Elena positioned herself between Carlos and the stairs. If Alexander came down, she needed warning, needed time to explain. Though how did you explain that your past just walked through the door, demanding attention? Nice place, Carlos said. You clean houses now? That's what you left me for? To be a maid? I left you because you gambled away everything we had, because you scared me, because you scared Isabella. I've changed, 2 years sober, haven't gambled in 18 months. I have job now, construction, like your father. I'm trying, Elena. I'm happy for you. Now leave. I can't, not yet. Carlos sat at the kitchen island uninvited. I got letter from lawyer, divorce papers. Third set you've sent. I've ignored the others, but this one says you're in Massachusetts, living in some rich man's house. I got worried. Worried or jealous? Both, maybe. He had the grace to look ashamed. Elena, I know I was terrible husband. I know you had every reason to leave, but we're still married. Under Mexican law, under God, we're married. And I never agreed to end that. Because you wouldn't sign the papers. 3 times, Carlos. 3 times I sent them. 3 lawyers. You refused every time. Because I hoped you'd come back. Give me another chance. There's nothing to come back to. Then why are you still my wife? Why haven't you divorced me properly, in person, with lawyers in room? Because part of you knows we're not finished. Elena wanted to scream, wanted to throw him out, but he had leverage she couldn't ignore, Isabella. He had legal guardianship, established when Elena left. If he chose to enforce it, he could make Isabella return to Mexico, could destroy her education, her future, everything Elena had sacrificed for. What do you want? She asked tiredly. Come home. Try again. We can be family. No, never. That's not on the table. Carlos's face hardened. Then we negotiate. I sign divorce papers. I give up guardianship of Isabella, but I need $50,000. The number hit like ice water. 50,000, an obscene amount, an impossible amount, more than extortion, a ransom on her freedom. I don't have that kind of money. But he does. Carlos pointed upward, toward wherever Alexander was. Rich man whose house you clean, whose bed you probably warm. He has money. You know nothing about my life. I know you're working for wealthy man, living in mansion. I know Isabella's at expensive university. I know your father just had heart surgery that cost thousands. Money coming from somewhere, Elena. Might as well be from me. Footsteps on the stairs. Alexander's voice, still on phone call, growing closer. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. You need to leave, now. Not until we talk terms. 50,000, I sign papers. Isabella stays in America. Everyone wins. Everyone except me, bound to you by money. You're already bound to me by law. This just makes it official ending. Alexander appeared in the kitchen doorway, phone still to his ear. He saw Elena, then Carlos, then Isabella's tear-streaked face. Understanding dawned slowly, then all at once. He ended his call. Elena, what's going on? Before she could answer, Carlos stood, extended his hand with false friendliness. You must be the man of the house. Carlos Vega. I'm Elena's husband. The word hung in the air. Husband. Elena watched Alexander's face, watched comprehension and confusion and hurt pass through his eyes like weather. Husband? His voice was carefully neutral. Elena? Alex, I can explain. She didn't tell you? Carlos feigned surprise. Married 9 years, never divorced. Under law, Elena is still my wife. Alexander looked at Elena, really looked at her. She saw the moment he felt betrayed, the moment trust cracked, the moment all the vulnerability he'd shown her became a weapon pointed at his own heart. Is this true? Elena wanted to lie, wanted to deny everything, throw Carlos out, pretend this wasn't happening. But she'd lived too long with deception, had paid too high a price for secrets. Yes, we're legally married, but Alex, it's not what you think. I left him 4 years ago. I've been trying to divorce him. He won't sign the papers. 4 years and you never mentioned this? We've spent 2 weeks getting closer and you never thought to mention you have a husband? Because he's not my husband. Not in any way that matters. Except legally. Alexander's voice went cold, the businessman emerging. Except in the way that makes everything we've done adultery. Don't. Elena stepped toward him. Don't do that. Don't reduce what we have to legal terms. What do we have, Elena? Because apparently I don't know. Don't know anything real about you. Carlos watched the exchange with satisfaction. See, this is why I came. To remind my wife of her commitments. To bring her home. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then I take Isabella. She's my legal charge. I can withdraw her from university, bring her back to Mexico anytime I want. You wouldn't. But Elena's voice wavered. Carlos would. She could see it in his eyes. He'd destroy Isabella's future to force Elena's hand. Alexander pulled out his phone. Dialed. Tom Bradford, I need you at my house. Now. Family law emergency. He hung up. Looked at Elena. My lawyer, he'll figure this out. Alex, I'm sorry. I should have told you. I was going to tell you. Just what? Waited until your husband showed up on my doorstep? He ran his hands through his hair. I opened up to you, told you things I haven't told anyone, and you were lying the whole time. I wasn't lying. I just didn't tell you everything. That's called lying by omission, Elena. The words hit harder because they were true. She had lied, not directly but by silence, by letting him believe she was free when she was still bound by legal chains to a man she didn't love. I was scared, she whispered, scared of losing this, losing you. Well, mission failed. Alexander's voice broke slightly. Because I don't know who you are anymore. He walked out of the kitchen. Elena heard his study door close. Final. Definitive. The sound of walls going back up. A vulnerability retreating behind armor. She turned to Carlos. Get out of my sight. Not until we settle terms. 50,000. I sign papers. Isabella stays. You get your rich boyfriend in back. He's not my boyfriend. Elena couldn't finish. Didn't know what Alexander was anymore. What they'd been building for 2 weeks now lay in ruins at her feet. Isabella spoke for the first time. Hermana, I can leave school, get a job. We'll figure out the money together. No, absolutely not. You're staying at BU. You're becoming a lawyer. That's the plan. Plans change. Not this one. The doorbell rang again. Tom Bradford, Alexander's lawyer, arriving with impressive speed. Elena let him in, explained the situation in clinical terms that made her life sound like a legal brief. Married but separated. Divorce refused. Guardianship complications. Extortion threat. Tom listened. Asked questions. Took notes. After 20 minutes, he had the full picture. This is solvable, he said. Massachusetts allows no-fault divorce after 4 years separation. We file abandonment claim. Carlos can refuse to cooperate, but judge will grant divorce anyway. Takes 120 days, but it's virtually guaranteed. And Isabella? Elena asked. She's 19, legal adult. His guardianship claim has no standing. She can choose where she lives. Relief flooded through Elena. Then Tom continued. However, he could make problems. Immigration questions about your status, harassment, legal challenges that cost time and money to defend against. Tom looked at Carlos. Unless we reach settlement, you sign papers now, relinquish guardianship formally, and in return, $50,000, Carlos finished. That's extortion. That's negotiation. Alexander returned to the kitchen. His face was composed, controlled, the mask back in place. I'll pay it, he said. Alex, no. Elena moved toward him. That's exactly what I didn't want. You paying my problems. It's the fastest solution. And your father just had surgery. Isabella has 1 year left at BU. You can't afford to fight him, so I'll pay. This changes everything. You paying him, it makes me... What? Kept woman? Gold digger? Is that what you think I think? Alexander's voice was sharp. Elena, I'm paying to make a problem go away. Nothing more. Don't make it about us. It is about us. Everything is about us now. There is no us. The words came out louder than Alexander intended. The kitchen went silent. I don't even know who you are. 2 weeks. We've known each other 2 weeks, and apparently you're married. What else haven't you told me? What other surprises are waiting? Elena felt something inside her crack. You want to know everything? Fine, let's talk about everything. About why I left Mexico. About what I did in Los Angeles before I came here. About the settlement money I took from a man who assaulted me. About all the ways I'm broken and complicated and exactly the mess you're thinking I am. Is that what you want? Alexander stared at her. What are you talking about? What settlement? But before Elena could answer, before she could unpack another secret, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Miss Rivera, this is Assistant District Attorney Jessica Williams. I need to speak with you about Vincent Hastings. It's urgent. The name hit like a bullet. Vincent Hastings, the Hollywood producer. The assault. The settlement. The past Elena thought she'd buried coming back to demand attention. Now's not a good time, Elena said. Ms. Rivera, Vincent Hastings has been charged with sexual assault by 7 women. We know you were one of his victims. We know you took a settlement. We need you to testify. Everyone in the kitchen could hear, the phone's volume too loud, the words echoing in the suddenly airless space. I signed an NDA, Elena whispered, which doesn't apply in criminal trials. Ms. Rivera, we're going to trial in 3 months. We need you. Other women need you. Please. Lena looked around the kitchen. At Carlos, smug satisfaction on his face. At Isabella, fear and confusion warring. At Tom Bradford, professional interest sparking. At Alexander, who now looked at her like she was a stranger. I need time to think. You have 2 weeks. After that, we subpoena you anyway. But it would be better if you came willingly. The call ended. Silence filled the kitchen like water filling a sinking ship. Well, Carlos said, seems my wife has more secrets than just me. Alexander turned to Elena. Who is Vincent Hastings? And Elena, exhausted beyond bearing, surrounded by the wreckage of every choice she'd made, told the truth. He's the man who assaulted me in Los Angeles in 2020. His lawyers paid me to disappear. That's why I came to Boston. That's why I was working as a nurse when your wife met me. I was trying to start over. The reason I know exactly what it means to survive. She watched Alexander process this. Watched him trying to reconcile the woman he thought he knew with this new information. Watched him trying to decide if she was victim or schemer, survivor or opportunist. I need time, he said finally. I need time to process all of this. Alex, please. Tom, draft whatever settlement Carlos needs. I'll wire the money tomorrow. Elena, take the rest of the week off with pay. We'll talk when I've had time to think. It wasn't angry, wasn't cruel. It was worse, it was distant. Polite, the voice he used with business associates he didn't particularly like. Elena felt something inside her die. Okay, yes, I'll go. She gathered Isabella, walked toward the door, stopped at the threshold and looked back at Alexander, who stood in his kitchen, looking more alone than she'd ever seen him. I'm sorry, she whispered, for all of it, for not telling you, for being complicated, for making you care about someone so broken. You're not broken, Alexander said, so quietly she almost didn't hear. But I don't know if I can do this. Can do complicated. Can be with someone who has this much past. I understand. She left. Carlos followed, still demanding his money. Tom Bradford stayed, probably to advise Alexander on damage control. And Elena walked out of the mansion into cold October air and felt winter arriving early. Isabella took her hand. It'll be okay, Hermana. But Elena knew better. Some things break too thoroughly to mend. Some moments of hope exist only to make the return to reality more devastating. She'd been a fool to think someone like Alexander Morgan could love someone like her. She'd been a fool to let herself love him back. 3 weeks passed, the longest 3 weeks of Elena's life. She didn't return to the Morgan mansion. Couldn't. Tom Bradford had delivered her final paycheck along with the severance package so generous it felt like guilt made tangible. $12,000. Blood money. The price of Alexander Morgan's conscience. Carlos got his 50,000. Signed the divorce papers with theatrical reluctance, as if he were granting a great favor instead of releasing a woman he'd trapped for nearly a decade. Tom Bradford filed the paperwork. 120 days until Elena would be legally free. 4 months that felt like forever. She picked up extra shifts at City Hospital. Worked herself into exhaustion, because exhaustion meant she couldn't think. Couldn't remember the way Alexander had looked at her before everything shattered. Couldn't hear his voice saying, "I don't know if I can do this." Isabella watched her sister disintegrate slowly. Tried to help. Brought home coffee and groceries and hoped that Elena couldn't swallow. "You should call him," Isabella said one evening, finding Elena staring at her phone for the 100th time. "He asked for time. I'm giving him time. It's been 3 weeks. Maybe he needs more. Or maybe you're both being stubborn and scared." Elena set down her phone. "Bella, he looked at me like I was a stranger. Like everything we built was a lie. How do you come back from that?" "By telling the truth. All of it. No more secrets." But Elena had one more secret. One she hadn't told anyone. Not even Isabella. The letter from Assistant District Attorney Jessica Williams sitting unopened on her kitchen counter. The subpoena that would arrive in a week if Elena didn't respond. The choice that was not really a choice at all. Testify against Vincent Hastings or be compelled to testify. Face her trauma publicly or have it dragged into light anyway. Stand up for other victims or let silence win again. She opened the letter for the 5th time. Read the words she'd memorized. 7 women, pattern spanning 12 years. Your testimony could make the difference between justice and another predator walking free. Elena thought about Sarah Chen, the 24-year-old whose accusations had reopened the case. Thought about the 6 other women, each carrying their own damage, their own shame, their own fear. Thought about the settlement money she'd taken and how it had kept her fed but poisoned every meal. She thought about Alexander asking, "Who are you?" and realizing she didn't know anymore. Somewhere between survival and secrets, she'd lost the woman she wanted to be. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Elena almost didn't answer, but something, instinct or fate, or Catherine Morgan's ghost, made her pick up. "Ms. Rivera, this is Sarah Chen." Elena sat up straight. "How did you get my number?" "ADA Williams gave it to me. I hope that's okay. I needed to talk to you, woman to woman, survivor to survivor." Sarah's voice was young, scared, determined. Everything Elena had been 4 years ago, before fear calcified into silence. "I don't know what I can tell you," Elena said carefully. "Tell me if testifying is worth it. Tell me if I'm crazy for putting myself through this. Tell me if—" Sarah's voice broke. "Tell me if it gets easier, carrying what he did, knowing and not being able to forget." Elena closed her eyes. Saw herself at 28 running from Vincent Hastings' mansion in Malibu, shirt torn, face bruised from where he'd held her down. Saw herself taking the settlement money with shaking hands. Saw herself becoming smaller and smaller, trying to disappear into safety. "It doesn't get easier," Elena said honestly, "but it gets different. The weight shifts. You learn to carry it. I don't think I can do this alone. His lawyers, they're brutal, calling me liar, gold digger, every name. And I look around the courtroom and think, if just one other woman would stand with me. If I wasn't so alone." The words hit like an arrow finding its mark. Not alone, that's what Sarah needed. What all of them needed. To know someone else understood, believed, would stand beside them. "You're not alone," Elena heard herself say. "I'll testify. Tell ADA Williams I'll testify." Sarah's sob of relief came through the phone. "Thank you, God. Thank you so much." After the call ended, Elena sat in her small apartment and felt something shift. Fear remained, shame remained. But underneath something else, something that felt almost like purpose. She called Jessica Williams. "I'll testify, but I need protection. Immigration is investigating my visa application. If I testify, if this becomes public, I could be deported. We can file for U visa, for crime victims who cooperate with prosecution. It takes time, but you'll be protected during process." "How long?" 6 months to process. But Ms. Rivera, you'll have prosecutorial protection immediately. Immigration won't move against you during trial. "And after?" "After, we fight together." Elena thought about fighting, thought about standing in a courtroom and telling her truth to strangers. Thought about Vincent Hastings' lawyers tearing her apart. Thought about newspapers and cameras and her life becoming public spectacle. Thought about Sarah Chen, 24 and terrified, looking for someone to stand with her. Okay, I'll do it. When do we start? Margaret Whitfield arrived at Elena's apartment on a gray November afternoon. Isabella answered the door, recognized Catherine's mother, and ushered her inside with confusion and courtesy. Elena emerged from the bedroom in sweatpants in one of Isabella's oversized BU sweatshirts. She looked smaller than Margaret remembered, diminished, like someone had turned down her light. Mrs. Whitfield, I wasn't expecting you. May I come in? We need to talk. They sat at Elena's small kitchen table. Margaret looked around the cramped apartment, the water-stained ceiling, the radiator that clanked but provided insufficient heat. This was where Elena lived, where she'd been living all along, while cleaning Margaret's son-in-law's mansion. The contrast was obscene. I came to apologize, Margaret began, and to give you something. You don't owe me anything. I owe you a great deal. I judged you harshly, thought you were after Alexander's money, thought you were using him. Margaret pulled a worn leather journal from her purse. Then I found this. Elena recognized it immediately, Catherine's handwriting on the cover, her diary. I've been going through Catherine's things, 3 years, and I couldn't face it. But after Alex told me what happened, about your husband, about the complications, I thought maybe I'd find answers. Margaret opened the journal to a marked page. May I read to you? Elena nodded, unable to speak. Margaret's voice was steady but emotional. June 15th. Met Elena today at treatment center. She's my nurse. Not like the others who see only the cancer. She sees me, asked about my family, my life before sickness. She has kind eyes, sad eyes. She understands loss. She turned pages. July 3rd. Elena told me her mother died from breast cancer, same disease eating me. We cried together in the treatment room. The other nurses thought it was unprofessional, but I needed someone who understood. She held my hand and said, "It's okay to be angry." No one else has said that. Everyone wants me to be brave. More pages. August 12th, I asked Elena if she'd consider working for us after I'm gone. She looked confused. I explained, Alex will be lost without me. He'll drown in work and guilt. He needs someone who understands grief but hasn't been destroyed by it. Someone strong enough to stand beside him when he's ready. She said yes. My angel said yes. Margaret's voice broke. She wiped her eyes, continued. September 20th, wrote letter for Elena, told her she's not just cleaning woman. She's hope. She's the possibility of Alex learning to live again. I'm hiring her for him, not the house. If they find each other, truly find each other, I'll have given him greatest gift, a second chance at love. She closed the journal. The final entry is 2 days before she died. Catherine wrote, I dreamed about Alex last night. He was in the garden with a dark-haired woman. Both laughing, both alive. When I woke, I wasn't sad. I was grateful. Elena will save him. I know she will. She just has to save herself first. Tears streamed down Elena's face. She knew, she really knew. My daughter had a gift for seeing the future, for understanding people better than they understood themselves. Margaret reached across the table, took Elena's hands. She chose you. Before she died, before you and Alex even met, she chose you for him. But I ruined it, kept secrets, made everything complicated. You survived. That's not the same as lying, and complicated isn't the same as wrong. Margaret squeezed her hands. Elena, I came to tell you I was wrong. You're not after money or position. You're exactly what Catherine knew Alex needed. Someone real, someone who understands pain but chooses courage anyway. I don't feel courageous. You're testifying against Vincent Hastings. Jessica Williams called me. I'm on the board of several women's organizations. She wanted advice on supporting you through trial. Margaret's eyes were fierce. That's courage, facing trauma publicly to help other women. That's exactly who Catherine knew you were. Does Alex know about the trial? I told him yesterday. He's processing. You need to understand, Elena. Alexander's instinct when hurt is to retreat, build walls, work until he can't feel. He's doing that now, but underneath, he's drowning. He asked for time, and you gave it, but 3 weeks is enough. Time to fight for what you want. What if he doesn't want to be fought for? Margaret smiled sadly. Then he's a fool, but I don't think he is. I think he's scared. Scared of losing someone else he loves. Scared of complications and pain and all the ways life can shatter. So he's trying to convince himself he doesn't need you. Does it work, convincing yourself? No, but we're stubborn people, we Morgans. Sometimes we need to be shown we're wrong. After Margaret left, Elena sat with Catherine's journal open before her, read every entry about herself, saw how Catherine had observed, hoped, planned, how she'd loved Alexander enough to give him permission to love again. Isabella came in, saw the journal, saw her sister's face. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Catherine Morgan was braver than I am. She faced death and still planned for love." Elena closed the journal carefully. "I'm thinking maybe I need to be brave too." "The trial?" "The trial and Alex, and whoever I want to be on the other side of all this." Elena stood. "I need to see him, need to tell him everything. No more secrets, no more hiding. What if he still says no? Then at least I'll know I tried, that I was brave enough to fight for something good." Alexander's office at Morgan Tech had always been his sanctuary, glass and steel and control. But lately it felt like a cage. He'd thrown himself back into work with the intensity of 3 years ago, right after Catherine died. 16-hour days, board meetings, acquisitions, anything to not think about Elena. It wasn't working. He saw her everywhere. In the coffee he couldn't make properly, in the empty kitchen of his mansion, in the winter garden where they'd knelt together in dirt, talking about dormancy and survival and things that bloom again. His brother Daniel had visited twice, told him he was being an idiot, told him complications were part of love, not reasons to run from it. Alexander had thrown him out both times. Margaret had been less gentle. "You're a coward," she'd said yesterday, standing in his office with Catherine's diary. "Catherine gave you permission to love again, practically ordered you to love Elena, and you're hiding behind hurt pride and fear." "She lied to me. She survived. She protected herself and her sister. She did what she had to do, and now she's doing something extraordinary. She's testifying against the man who assaulted her, facing him in court, being brave. While you sit in your glass tower and pretend that's easier than loving someone complicated. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're terrified of losing someone else you love, so you're ending it first, controlling the loss." Catherine did the same thing. Margaret had put the diary on his desk. "Read it, all of it. See how my daughter loved you, how she planned for you, how she knew Elena was right for you before either of you knew." After Margaret left, Alexander had read, cover to cover, Catherine's hopes, her fears, her determination that Alex would not spend his life alone, her absolute certainty that Elena was the answer. "She sees him," Catherine had written, "really sees him. Not the CEO or the money or the control. She sees the man who's scared and lonely and trying so hard to be strong. She'll understand him because she's the same. They're both survivors pretending to be okay. Maybe together they can actually be okay." Alexander had put down the diary and cried. First time since Catherine's funeral. Cried for his wife's love, for his own fear, for pushing away the one person who'd made him feel alive again. But pride kept him in his office. Pride and fear braided so tight he couldn't tell them apart. Until his assistant knocked. "Mr. Morgan, there's someone here to see you, Elena Rivera. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important." Alexander's heart stopped, started again. "Send her in." Elena entered wearing the same clothes from 3 weeks ago. Jeans, Isabella's sweatshirt, but something about her had changed. She held her head higher, looked him directly in the eyes. The woman who'd always seemed to make herself smaller now took up space. "Alex, thank you for seeing me." "Of course. Sit, please." She sat, he sat. The desk between them felt like miles. "I'm testifying," Elena said without preamble, "against Vincent Hastings. Trial starts in 6 weeks. I wanted you to hear it from me." Margaret told me, "Elena, that's incredibly brave." "I'm terrified, but I'm doing it anyway, because a young woman named Sarah Chen called me, asked me to stand with her. And I realized I've spent 4 years running from what happened, running from Carlos, running from my past, running from anything that might hurt. But running doesn't work. The pain follows, the shame follows. The only way out is through. I'm proud of you. Are you? Because 3 weeks ago you looked at me like I was a stranger. Like every secret I'd kept made me someone you couldn't trust." Alexander flinched. "I was hurt. You'd kept major things from me. I felt blindsided." "You were blindsided, and I'm sorry. I should have told you about Carlos, about Vincent, about all of it. But Alex, I need you to understand something." Elena leaned forward. "My whole life has been survival, making impossible choices, protecting the people I love at cost of my own honesty. I'm not proud of it. But I'm not ashamed anymore either. I did what I had to do. I know, Margaret helped me see that. And I read Catherine's diary. So you know she planned this, planned us. She hoped, didn't guarantee. No, but she knew me, knew you, knew we were both good at being alone and terrible at being together. Knew we'd fight it. Elena's voice softened. Alex, I love you. I've loved you since that first morning when you tried to make me coffee and forgot the water. Maybe before. Maybe from the moment you saw me in that bathtub and looked at me like I was human, not invisible. I love you. And I don't know if that's enough. Don't know if you can love me back with all my complications. But I needed you to know before the trial, before everything becomes public. I needed you to know who I am, all of me, and let you decide if that's someone you can love. Alexander stood, walked around the desk, knelt before her chair so they were eye level. Elena Rivera, you are the most complicated, frustrating, brave, beautiful person I've ever met. You made me feel alive when I thought I'd be numb forever. You taught me to dice onions and play chess badly and remember that life is more than work and grief. You're everything Catherine hoped you'd be. Everything I didn't know I needed. But, no but, I love you. Complicated and secretive and scared. All of it, I love you. Elena's breath caught. You mean it? I've meant it since that first kiss. Maybe before. I was just too scared to admit it. Scared of losing you. Scared of pain. Scared of everything that comes with opening your heart to someone who has power to break it. He took her hands. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. So yes, I love you. And I'm going to stand beside you through this trial. Through the divorce. Through whatever comes. If you'll have me. As what? Employer? Friend? Something more? As partner. Equal partner. No more me paying your problems away. No more power imbalance. We figure things out together. Make decisions together. Be brave together. Elena pulled him up, kissed him with everything she'd been holding back for 3 weeks. Relief and love and fear and hope all mixed together. When they broke apart, both were crying. I have conditions, Elena said. Name them. First, I pay you back for Carlos's settlement. Monthly payments. Interest-free. But I pay you back. Agreed, though I'd rather you didn't. Second, after the trial, after the divorce is final, I quit working as your housekeeper. Find something else. Build something that's mine. What did you have in mind? A restaurant? My mother's recipes? Mexican food done right? Small place in South End, maybe. I've been saving for years. Between the nursing and the settlements, I almost have enough for lease and equipment, Alexander smiled. That's perfect. You should absolutely do that. You can't invest, can't give me money. Can I be a customer? Every day if you want. Then we have a deal. He kissed her again. What's the third condition? When you propose, and you will propose someday, you ask properly. Ring, romance, the whole thing, not because you're trying to save me, because you want to spend your life with me. That's not a condition, that's a guarantee. Alexander held her close. Elena, we're going to mess this up sometimes. Have fights, make mistakes, but I promise to always try. Always choose you, always be brave enough to love you. That's all anyone can promise. They stood in his office, holding each other, while Boston moved below them, both knowing the hard part was ahead. Trial, testimony, public scrutiny, the past demanding to be faced. But they'd face it together. Suffolk County Courthouse, December. Cold wind off the harbor made the assembled crowd outside huddle in their coats. Media vans lined the street, cameras everywhere. This was the trial everyone was watching. 7 women against one powerful man. Hashtag #MeToo made real in a Boston courtroom. Inside, Elena sat at the prosecution table beside Jessica Williams. Behind her, a wall of support. Alexander, Isabella, Margaret, Rachel from the hospital, Sarah Chen and the other victims who'd already testified. A community of survivors. Vincent Hastings sat across the aisle, $60,000 worth of lawyers surrounding him. He looked tanned and confident, like a man who'd never faced real consequences. Elena hated him. That was new. For 4 years, she'd felt shame, fear, self-blame. Never pure hatred, but watching him sit there, entitled and unconcerned, she felt rage crystallize. Good. She'd need that rage. Judge Patricia Morrison entered. Everyone rose. The judge was 50-ish, stern-faced, known for running a tight courtroom. She'd shown no patience for Hastings' lawyers' theatrics during previous testimonies. Ms. Williams, your next witness. The people call Elena Maria Rivera. Elena stood. Her legs felt like water. Alexander squeezed her hand once, released her. She walked to the witness stand, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. Jessica Williams approached. Kind eyes, professional demeanor. They'd practiced this, rehearsed every question. But practice and performance were different countries. Ms. Rivera, please tell the court how you met Vincent Hastings. Elena took a breath, found Alexander in the crowd. He nodded. You can do this. I worked for a cleaning agency in Los Angeles. Summer of 2020. They sent me to Mr. Hastings' mansion in Malibu. I'd only been in America 3 months, came on tourist visa, desperate for work. Cleaning job, 3 days a week. What were your first impressions? Beautiful house, expensive everything. He was charming, friendly, asked about my family, made jokes. I thought he was kind. When did things change? About 2 months in, comments started about my body, about how I looked in the uniform, how he liked watching me work. Elena's voice stayed steady, then touching, hand on my shoulder, standing too close, always with excuse. Sorry, didn't see you there. Oops, tight space. But I knew, women always know. Did you report this? No, I was undocumented. Tourist visa overstayed, I was scared. Tell us about September 15th, 2020. This was it, the moment Elena had been dreading for 4 years. She looked at Hastings. He stared back, smirking slightly, daring her. I was cleaning his office. Late, around 9 p.m. Everyone else had left. I thought he'd left too. I was finishing the bookshelves when I heard the door lock behind me. Her voice began to shake. Jessica nodded encouragement. He'd been drinking. I could smell it. He said we needed to discuss my career opportunities. I said I needed to go. He blocked the door, said there was no rush. What happened next? He backed me against the desk, started saying things, that women in my situation should be grateful for attention from a man like him, that I'd never do better, that I should stop playing hard to get because we both knew why I was really there. Elena's hands gripped the witness box. Then he grabbed me, put his hand over my mouth when I tried to scream, said no one would believe me anyway, pushed me down on the desk, started pulling at my clothes. Tears came now. Elena didn't try to stop them. I couldn't breathe. His weight on me, his hand on my mouth. I thought I was going to die, thought that's how my life would end, in some rich man's office because I needed money. How did you escape? I bit his hand hard, drew blood. He let go, swearing. I grabbed a paperweight from the desk, heavy glass thing, threw it at him, hit his shoulder, ran. Where did you go? Out. Just ran, down the driveway, down the hill, 2 miles to bus stop. Didn't stop running until I was on the bus heading back to my motel. Did you go to the police? Next morning, reported everything. But that night, his lawyers came to my motel room, 3 of them. What did they say? Elena looked at the jury, ordinary people, some sympathetic, some skeptical. She needed them to understand. They said Mr. Hastings was prepared to offer $50,000. I had to sign papers saying nothing happened. Had to leave California immediately. If I refused, they'd call ICE, have me deported that day. I'd never see my sister again. Maybe be detained for months or years. What did you do? I took the money, signed the paper, ran to Boston. Shame colored her voice. I let him win. Let him buy my silence while he hurt other women. Ms. Rivera, why are you testifying today? Because a woman named Sarah Chen called me, asked me to stand with her. She's 24, same age I was, same terror in her voice, and I realized I could help her by telling truth, could stop him from hurting anyone else, could be brave this time instead of scared. Jessica turned to the judge. No further questions. The cross-examination was brutal. Hastings' lead attorney, Marcus Reed, was everything Elena expected. Polished, aggressive, designed to destroy. Ms. Rivera, you took $50,000 from my client, correct? Yes. And signed documents saying no assault occurred? Yes, but I was threatened. Yes or no, please. You signed? Yes. Then use that money to relocate to Boston? Start new life? To survive, yes. Survive on $50,000, quite comfortable survival. Marcus paced. And now, 3 years later, you're engaged to Alexander Morgan, net worth $600 million. Interesting timing. Objection! Jessica was on her feet. Relevance? Your Honor, it goes to motivation. Ms. Rivera has pattern of profiting from relationships with wealthy men. Judge Morrison's eyes were ice. Sustained. Mr. Reed, tread very carefully. But damage was done. The jury had heard it. Elena saw their faces, doubt creeping in. Marcus continued, you claim my client assaulted you, but you never went to trial, never pressed charges, just took money and left. Isn't it true you simply regret consensual encounter and are now trying to profit again? No, he assaulted me. Yet you signed document contradicting that. Because I was threatened with deportation. So you claim, but where's proof? Who witnessed this threat? It was in my motel room, just them and me. Convenient, no witnesses to support your story. Elena felt herself unraveling. This was what she'd feared, being called liar, gold digger, having her truth twisted into ugly accusations. Then Alexander stood up in the gallery. I believe her. Judge Morrison banged her gavel. Sir, sit down or leave my courtroom. I believe her, Alexander said again louder. Elena Rivera is the most honest person I know. She told me about the assault, about the money, about being threatened. Before we were together, before she knew I had money, she told me because she doesn't lie, because she's brave enough to tell difficult truths. Mr. Morgan, the judge's voice was sharp. One more word and you'll be held in contempt. Alexander sat, but the courtroom had heard, the jury had heard. Someone believed Elena. Someone powerful believed her. Marcus Reed tried to recover, but the moment was broken. His remaining questions landed softer. Elena held steady. When cross-examination finally ended, she felt hollowed out but intact. Jessica's redirect was brief. Ms. Rivera, do you regret testifying today? No. Would you do it again, knowing how difficult it would be? Yes, every time, because speaking truth is how we heal, how we stop predators, how we save each other. Elena stepped down, walked past Hastings. He whispered something. She didn't catch it, didn't need to. His words had no power anymore. She told her truth. That's all that mattered. 3 days of deliberation. Elena spent them at Alexander's mansion, the two of them existing in suspended animation, waiting for a jury to decide if her truth was believable. When the call came, they were in the winter garden, Elena tending plants while Alexander read beside her. Ordinary moment that would become watershed. They have a verdict, Jessica Williams said. Court convenes in 1 hour. The courtroom was packed, all 7 women present, their families, advocates, media. The air vibrated with tension. Jury filed in, 12 faces, 12 strangers who held power over Elena's peace. Judge Morrison addressed them. Has the jury reached a verdict? 4 women stood, middle-aged woman, teacher, Elena remembered from jury selection. Kind eyes. We have, Your Honor. On the count of sexual assault in the first degree, how do you find? We find the defendant guilty. The word hit like thunder. Guilty, Elena gasped, couldn't breathe. Alexander grabbed her hand. On the count of witness intimidation? Guilty. On all counts. Guilty on all counts, Your Honor. The courtroom erupted, crying, cheering, Hastings' lawyers objecting loudly, Judge Morrison banging her gavel for order. But Elena heard none of it. She heard only that word. Guilty, guilty, guilty. She'd been believed. Sarah Chen grabbed her, both women sobbing, the other victims joining, a circle of survivors holding each other, believing each other, validating each other's pain. Hastings was led away in handcuffs. His face finally showed fear. The golden armor cracked. He looked old, powerless, just a man who'd used position to hurt women and was finally facing consequences. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Morrison showed no mercy. Mr. Hastings, you abused power, betrayed trust, caused immeasurable harm to vulnerable women for over a decade. This court finds your actions reprehensible. 15 years, state prison. No parole eligibility for 7 years. 15 years. Elena felt something unlock in her chest, something that had been clenched tight since that night in Malibu. Not forgiveness, not forgetting, but release. The weight of shame lifting, the knowledge that she'd fought and won. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. Elena gave a statement. I want to say something to other survivors. I know you're scared. I know it feels impossible, but your voice matters. Your truth matters. I stayed silent for 4 years. Mom and fear nearly destroyed me. But today, speaking truth saved me. It saved all of us. She looked directly at the cameras. Don't let predators silence you. Don't let shame win. Find your courage. Use your voice. You're stronger than you know, and you're not alone. Never alone. The clip went viral. Elena Rivera became a face of the movement. Invitations poured in, speaking engagements, interviews, advocacy organizations wanting her involvement. But first, she had a life to build. Morgan Tech's board called emergency meeting 1 week after the verdict. Alexander knew what was coming, had known since he stood up in that courtroom. Lawrence Cartwright led the charge. Gentlemen, we have a situation. Our CEO's fiancé is all over the news. Sexual assault case, immigration issues. The publicity has been overwhelmingly positive, Margaret Whitfield interrupted. She joined the board 2 years ago. Stock is up 6% since the verdict. Employees are proud. Customers are supportive. But the distraction, Alex has been absent, unfocused. This company needs leadership. Alexander stood. Lawrence is right. I've been distracted, focused on wrong things. This company was my life for 20 years, but it's not anymore. Elena is. Our future is. So I'm resigning as CEO effective immediately. Silence. Then chaos. Board members talking over each other. Margaret smiling slightly. Lawrence sputtering. You can't resign. You built this company, which is why I know it'll survive without me. Daniel will make an excellent CEO. He's been ready for years. I've just been too controlling to admit it. Alexander gathered his things. Gentlemen, it's been an honor, but I'm choosing life over work, love over legacy. Catherine would approve. He walked out of his company for the last time, felt lighter than he had in years. Casa Elena opened on a perfect June evening. Small restaurant in South End, 25 tables, open kitchen, garden out back where herbs grew in the Boston sun, photos of Elena's mother on the walls, candles on every table, warmth in every corner. Alexander stood at the bar, watching Elena command her kitchen. She'd used settlement money from civil suit against Hastings. 2 million split among 7 women. Elena's share paid for lease, equipment, 6 months operating costs. She'd built this, her dream, her independence. She is. And she's amazing, Isabella said, appearing beside him. 20 years old now, finishing her junior year at BU, political science with 4.0 GPA. Already accepted to Harvard Law for after graduation. Full scholarship. Summer internship with Jessica Williams lined up. You're good for each other, you know. Balance each other out. I'm still figuring that out. You love her. She loves you. Seems pretty figured out to me. Alexander smiled. Isabella had her sister's directness. Fair point. After the dinner rush ended, after the last customer left and the kitchen was clean, Alexander found Elena in the garden. She was among her tomato plants, hands in soil, humming Bésame Mucho. Full circle from that first moment. Elena Rivera? She turned, smiled. That's not my name anymore. Divorce was finalized last month. I'm just Elena now. Perfect, because I have a question for Elena. He knelt, pulled out a ring, simple emerald, her birthstone, surrounded by small diamonds. This isn't because I'm trying to save you. You saved yourself, built this beautiful place, became this incredible, brave woman who changes lives. This is because I want to spend every remaining day of my life watching you bloom. Will you marry me? Elena knelt too, met him at eye level. Yes, 1,000 times yes. They kissed in the garden she'd built, the restaurant she'd created, the life she'd fought for. And somewhere, Catherine and Elena's mother looked down and smiled. The wedding was small, Boston Public Garden in October. 50 guests. Judge Morrison officiated, which made everyone laugh. Margaret walked Elena down the aisle, Catherine's blessing made tangible. Isabella was maid of honor. Daniel best man. Elena wore simple ivory dress. Alexander cried through his vows. They both promised to be brave, to choose each other, to build a life on truth and trust. The reception at Casa Elena was perfect. Food, music, dancing. Elena's father healthy and proud. Carlos sent flowers with note. Be happy, you deserve it. Surprising grace from unexpected source. 1 year later, Alexander found Elena in the winter garden again. Always in that garden, but this time her hand rested on a visible baby bump. You're always here, he said, wrapping arms around her from behind. This is where everything started. Where you first saw me. Where I first really saw you. Do you remember that day, the bathroom? How embarrassed I was? I remember thinking it was the worst timing. Walking in on you like that. But it wasn't. Elena turned in his arms. It was perfect timing, perfect moment. If you'd come home any other day, we might never have talked, never have connected. That accident, that embarrassing moment, it changed everything. So we're grateful I'm a terrible employer who invades privacy? Elena laughed. We're grateful for perfect moments, even when they look like mistakes. Baby kicked, they both felt it. Catherine Elena Morgan, Kathy, named for both their mothers, connection between past and future. Are you happy? Alexander asked. I'm terrified. I'm exhausted. I'm running a restaurant while pregnant. I'm advocating for assault survivors. I'm married to a man who still can't cook. I'm complicated and messy, and nothing is simple. Elena smiled. But yes, I'm happy. Truly, completely happy. Good, because this is forever. Forever sounds perfect. They stood in the garden as October light faded. Two broken people who'd learned to be whole together. Two survivors who'd become thrivers. Two strangers who'd become soulmates through a bathroom door left ajar. Perfect timing or terrible timing. Didn't matter. It was their moment, and they'd built a beautiful life from it. Above them, stars emerged. Below them, earth held firm. Around them, a home filled with love. And in the distance, if you listened carefully, you could hear someone singing Bésame Mucho, the song of wished for things, the song of second chances, the song of love that survives everything. The perfect moment wasn't the bathroom or the kiss or the proposal. It was this. Every ordinary evening, every shared breath, every choice to stay, to fight, to love despite fear. This was the perfect moment, and it would last forever. The end.